Hey friends! Welcome to Spirit Club, a podcast and community that is all about doing the inner work to live an aligned and, dare I say, happy life. I'm your host, spiritual guide and intuitive, Angell Kelly, and I'm here to share my teachings along with messages passed on to me from higher consciousness. I've also got incredible guests in store to help you go down all those spiritual rabbit holes. So let's go! Welcome to the club! Hello, Spirit Club. Don't get attached to an outcome. Where are you placing your worth and accepting people? These are some of the lessons that I would tell my younger self that I'm going to share with you today. So thank you for joining another episode of Spirit Club. And today's podcast episode was inspired by a friend. Shout out to Jill. And it is 5 lessons that I would teach my younger self. And I don't know if this goes without saying, but it goes without saying that I have no regrets. The journey that I took was the journey that I took, and I'm sure we kind of all feel that way. But, it's always interesting to reflect back on the things that you're like, oh, if she only knew, And I think this is a fun exercise for everyone to do. So if you're listening, I would recommend that tonight you do a little journaling and ask yourself, what are some things that I would go back and teach my former self? And then share with us. Share here on Spotify. There's a comment section, YouTube comments, Instagram. I'll put up a question box, but let's all collectively learn from what we've learned so far in this life. So part of the reason I love this question is because it made me realize that these lessons and me learning from them is actually how I now best serve my clients. I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, these are the things that I work most with clients on, which is kind of duh. But yeah, so if you're listening, you've probably been a client of mine and you will resonate with some of these lessons. Okay, here we go. 5 lessons that I would go back and teach my younger self. Number 1, don't get attached to a specific outcome. Don't get married to it. So what do I mean by this? As a very driven person, I would get an idea in my head and heart of what I wanted my life to be like. So this could be a job, living situation, relationship, friendships, whatever. And then I would just bullheadedly drive towards this specific outcome. And I would become so attached to it that even if God was trying to nudge me in another direction, reroute me a little bit, I would not see it. I would refuse to see it, and I would straight ahead. Or even if my own heart, my own intuition was trying to tell me are you sure that that's what you want to do? No, I was attached to that outcome. I was full speed ahead. And then when it wouldn't work out, which is what happens when you get really married to an outcome, often this lesson will come in. It doesn't work out, or it doesn't work out in time, or whatever that happens to be. I would be devastated by that. And of course I would be. I put all my eggs in that basket. So for example, specific example, I wanted to be a ballerina. And I think I was in my 2nd year in university in Victoria. And I had applied to a university ballet program in Calgary. And I was certain that this was what I wanted to do and what I was going to do. So I was working my ass off in ballet classes, performing, all that sort of thing. I was preparing to move. I had applied. I did everything right in my application. And then, of course, what happened? Guess. Didn't get in. No, I didn't. And I was heartbroken. Oh my, I was on the floor. I was beside myself. I was a victim. It was not good. But then what did I do? I did not reconsider. No, I didn't. I didn't think, Do I really want this? No. I was like, I'm doing it. So I still moved to Calgary. I found like a back way into that program, did that program for about a year, and then realized, oh, this program ain't it. So then I move across the country to Montreal because it's a better place to be as a dancer. And I land a little nutcracker contract. I find myself this hardcore Russian ballet teacher, and I, full speed ahead to the goal of being a professional dancer, being a ballerina. And yet, I wasn't, like, outside of these tiny little contracts, I wasn't making it. I would be rejected at every single audition. And even in the contracts that I did make it in, I wouldn't get the parts. It was like very painful. And eventually, I was getting old for a ballerina, for a dancer. And eventually, I realized I needed to let go of the dream of being a professional. And that was such a painful breakup for me because I was so attached and so married to that outcome. But here's the beautiful thing. Once I went through it, grieved it, got to the other side of it, I ended up dancing with this beautiful nonprofit. Shout out to Sonia Blasvik Dance Company, SBDC, Montreal. They're still operating today. And this group of women, like, they changed my life in Montreal. They also changed my experience as a dancer. It had always been a pretty painful and hard on me experience, and this was like such a loving, healing experience. And that's just one example of what happens when you let go of what the outcome had to look like. I had decided it had to be like professional dancer, and then this beautiful opportunity to do it in a nonprofit way, to actually enjoy myself, and then to like go make money in another way, So anyway, so here's what I want to say about this lesson of not getting attached to an outcome. First of all, it's okay to want things. And it is okay to work towards those things that you want, the life that you want. All that's great. All that's okay. I want to be clear about that. Desire, which is really just listening to and following the heart, is a part of the process of alignment. The key, and what you have to watch out for, is you have to have the willingness to surrender what it's going to look like in the end, the exact form that the life will take. The willingness to listen to God and intuition and co-create, to pivot when necessary. So you hold the vision, the feeling of the future, and be unattached to it at the same time. I know that's like a strange balance. But just to show you like what that leads to, where I'm at now, like I probably embraced this lesson somewhere around 2021. And now that I know the magic of surrendering it over to God and not being attached to exactly the outcome, I do it because it's always super amazing and not something I ever would have thought it. Do you think, so for example, do you think 2 years ago I would have had the idea of living in Greece and like living this peaceful, joy, pleasure, beautiful life in my mind? No, I did not. I would never have thought of that. God thought of that. What I had was a vision of a slower life, peace, joy in the simple things, beauty, eating food, grown on my land. Like I had these little pieces, but I was not attached to any specific outcome. And then the outcome came from God. So that lesson is chef's kiss. Okay. Second lesson I would go back and teach my younger self is, where are you placing your worth? I feel like this should be taught in high school. Such a good one. Because I think as humans with egos, we naturally place our worth in things that are outside of us. It's just like part of our makeup. And commonly in the Western world, we place our worth in our jobs, how much money we make, whether we've got a husband or wife, whether we have kids. These are some of the things that we place our worth in. And I'm telling you, for me, it was my job. It was my job and my job title. And my Saturn return was like, we're going to teach you a thing or two about where your worth really resides. So, it was 2014. I graduated university. I was like ready to be a geologist, pumped. And oil prices crashed, and I would get a contract, lose a contract, get a contract, lose a contract. As you do in oil and gas when prices crash. Didn't really know that though, And my self-worth was the lowest that I can ever think of. Why? Because I believed what gave me value, what made me worthy, was being a geologist, was working as a geologist. So when I couldn't get work as a geologist, what did that leave me with? No worth, no value, in the toilet. So over time, I did the work to love myself and to believe that I had inherent worth. But I still think, periodically, this is an important one to check in on. Where am I placing my worth right now? For example, for the last couple of years, I was clearly placing some of my worth in my ability to hustle. And I had to reprogram that one. So I encourage everyone listening to just check in. Where am I placing my worth? All right, number 3, third lesson, I would go back and teach my younger self. It is not your job to take care of other people's feelings and experiences. So I know a lot of you also do this. So this is like, if you know sort of thing. But I'll be honest on this one. I have come a long way in my healing around it, but I still do it sometimes. And it frustrates me when I do it. I hate it. Anyway, so I do this thing where I can sense how someone's feeling around me. And if they're not feeling good, so they're angry, stressed, anxious, sad, I manage their energy and the situation so that they feel better. I was doing this at that last job that I worked in Calgary with a coworker. Oh, it made me so mad that I was doing this for him. I was like, but. So what I want to point out about this is that the thing about it is it's actually just a mismanaged gift. A gift without boundaries. So when I was a child, I could sense the feelings of those around me, those closest to me, particularly my parents, my sister, who most of the time weren't outwardly expressing how they were feeling, because that's just not what we did in our family. And so I picked it up intuitively. And then in order to make myself feel better, because for whatever reason, them not feeling well made me feel unsafe and unwell, I would then manage, peace keep, make everything right so everybody feels good, and then I can feel good. So ultimately, it was like, it's selfish. It is something I'm doing for me in the end. And with that coworker, I was doing it because when he was anxious, we weren't working, we didn't have a great workflow. So I didn't feel good. It was inconvenient for me to have him anxious. So I would manage his anxious feelings so that we could work better. But, I wasn't charging him for that. So it made me a little frustrated that I was doing it. Anyway, this is, the fact that I was doing that as a child, and this probably is true for many of you, the fact that I was doing that as a child is actually what has turned into my most natural, intuitive gift. This is what I do with clients most naturally. I can feel into their energy. I can feel into what they're asking about, and help them to heal it, clear it, find peace. So as much as I get frustrated with the fact that I'm mismanaging it or don't have the right boundaries around it, it is also my gift, and I'm grateful for it. So what would I do with my younger self? I would give my younger self awareness, the fact that she's doing it, because for a very long time, I didn't know that I was doing that, right? And to know that with boundaries, I can be okay while someone else in the room is not okay. You know, like that's sort of where I've reached today. Most of the time, I can be in a room, even Shane, you know, maybe Shane's not well, stressed, anxious, angry, whatever. He can have those feelings and be over there, and I don't need to take care of them for him. So, all right, number 4. Lesson I would go back and teach my younger self would be to let go of being the victim. You guys, you know what? You know what's most often standing in between my clients and what they want? They don't want to let go of being the victim, ultimately. Feels too good being a victim. And same, like that was me too. I'm like, no shame. That's probably all of us at one point or another. It does feel good to be the victim. Poor me. For me, it was like, poor me. I worked so hard to be a dancer. I gave everything to dance and I don't get to be a dancer. When I couldn't be a geologist, I was like, the universe doesn't want me to be happy and fulfilled. I'm making fun of myself here, but like I do have love and compassion for that version of me. He did this to me. She did this to me. These victim moments, we all have them, no shame. But if you want to move out of that situation, the thing that you're going to have to let go of is the victim part. You can't move on to empowered to the thing that you want and be a victim. You don't get to have both. Sorry. So, you know, I remember, when I was working on forgiving Shane, there was a year that we were broken up and we were apart. And at first I was being a victim. And that was serving me because me being a victim meant he did something wrong and I could feel like justified in that and whatever. But eventually I moved into owning my part and what went wrong between us. I went into owning the fact that I had self-abandoned and ignored my intuition around certain things. And by moving into ownership, away from victimhood into ownership, that's what allowed me to find new love. Now, spoiler alert, I took ownership, forgave Shane in my heart for me. I wasn't doing it for him, I was doing it for me. And then he ended up re-entering my life. We have a very healed relationship and we're living happily ever after. Anyway, so it's just an example of what letting go of being the victim can bring you. Okay, final thing for now, at least, that I would go back and teach my younger self would be to accept people as they are. So when I was young, I kind of like only liked people that were like me in a sense, you know? I think a lot of us do this when we're young. We decide on what is right, what is good, what's a good way to be. And if you aren't like that, then like change, because my way is the right way. Anybody resonate? So this was another lesson that I really learned in relationship with Shane, because we are so different. Aquarius meet Taurus, very different. And I would say in the early days of our relationship, we did not accept this lesson. My way was better, his way was better, and we were like butting heads in this way. Like, you changed to do it like me, you changed to do it like me. My way's the right way. But eventually, and honestly, I think astrology really helped me with this one. Eventually, I got to the point, or I've gotten to the point in my wise and old age, I don't know why I got to this point, of like, his way is good and right, my way is good and right. You know what I mean? Like, there is no one way to be. And so we embrace those differences in one another, and it actually sort of like elevates us individually and as a relationship. And so I'm applying this to my romantic relationship, but I would say it's even more important in like family relationships. It's important in all of them. So what I would say is that when you're in relationship with someone, let's say romantic relationship, family, friendship, whatever it is, you either accept them as they are and continue having that relationship in your life, or you stop having that relationship in your life. Those are the two options. What is not an option is to continue to have the relationship and be disgruntled about the way they are, or continue to have the relationship and hope that they change, try to change them. So that has created so much peace in my relationships, particularly my romantic relationship and family. I mean, it's probably something I'm still working on in family, but it's really just like accept people the way they are. Okay, there are probably many more of these lessons, but these are the ones that wanted to be shared with you and with my younger self today. And I hope you guys try this exercise and share with us all what are some of the things that you would go back and teach your younger self. So until next time, bye, Spirit Club.